Hey guys, it's me, Yaya Diamond. I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio. We have an amazing guest on the show today, and it's JD. And I am not sure how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to do it because I'm going to torture it. But I'm going to let him do it. But he is an author. He has a book out, and you guys can go ahead and check it out. Oh my gosh! And it's just, I love the artwork in the front, and he has a story about that. And I want to go ahead and show that to you now. And there's just so many different facets about Jay that I absolutely love. We've had the time to talk and we've had the time to chat, even, before this interview and exchange text messages and stuff. And he's very, very, very into his book. And I absolutely love that. And I want to welcome him to the show today. Thank you so much for being on the show, JD. How you doing?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for having me.
Oh,
It's this is my first time ever being on the radio this way.
Oh, well, that's okay. It's good. There's a first for everything, and then you don't have a first. So this is special.
Yes, very special, especially when you're trying to get your book out there in the world, so that people know, who you are as an author. I've been published for 25 years. Of
Hmm.
course, my name is JD Rubal, and it's Ruybal. I have been uh, self-published for over 25 years. My new epic novel, Waiting for Extraterrestrials, is a gripping story that starts in the past, where Native Americans were wiped out by the invasion of Anglo-Saxons, pushed to the brink of death and barely holding on to their land and their own culture, at least until an unlikely aid in the form of a modern day Moses comes to the rescue in this adventurous tale of aliens, guardian angels who come to save the day. European settlers came to America 400 years ago. There were over 60 million Indigenous Native Americans before the invasion. Indigenous Natives ancestors were already here for thousands of years, and they were one with the earth. They loved them with all their hearts. The invaders were like a snowplow, destroying everything in its wake.
Mm.
Their goal was to get rich and steal the land from the natives. They murdered the indigenous people by the droves and had no remorse. My protagonist in this story is summoned by the Great Spirit to save her people from complete annihilation by the invaders. Over 57 million indigenous people died through murder and mayhem and disease. Presently, there are only 3.5 million indigenous people in America. As a
Wow.
nation, we must right our wrongs of our past. Human
Definitely.
kindness must be at the forefront. How many more people must die before we come to our senses? Did our Heavenly Father not give us rules to live by? We are one with the universe, and no human is exempt from the rule of law. As a nation, we must dig deep into our souls and find empathy for our brothers, no matter where we come from. We are all equals. I am not passing judgment. I'm merely making an observation. Humanity is screaming, but no one is listening. Kindness has fallen on deaf ears. My book, Waiting for Extraterrestrials, touches on the mistakes made by European settlers when occupying the indigenous lands in America. And it was by sheer brutal force. Many people died so European settlers could possess the lands that belonged to the indigenous people for thousands of years. My book delves into the plight of indigenous people and the suffering they endured at the hands of the invaders. It
Mm.
was a travesty, and it has deeply affected the indigenous people in America. My book was rated 9.3 out of 10, and it is its finest in its category. My books are sold on Amazon Book, Amazon Kindle, Barnes and Noble. I would like to thank all the listeners out there in America, and may God bless you. Do you have
Awesome.
any questions for me?
I do. That was just amazing what you just said. Everything was just and just
Thank
oh my
you.
gosh, the wiping out of the millions of people, the indigenous people that are here.
57 million.
That's crazy. That's
I mean,
absolutely crazy.
we talk about the Holocaust of 6 million people during the Vietnam War. There was 4 million people who died there. You know, how many more people was we murder? I don't even know how many I can tell you during the Korean War, World War One, World War Two. It's like millions and millions. I think probably somewhere around 45 million people died during World War Two. You know, we lost over 400,000 in America. I mean, we in this continuance of this, it's not good. You know, not good for the soul.
No,
Not good for anybody.
no, it's not.
We're not going anywhere. We're like pedaling backwards, That's
Tell
just
me
my
about it.
theory. I don't know if I'm right or not, but
No,
you know,
you're right. And it's the same thing with the African American, the slave trade. It was terrible. It was horrendous, and it should not have happened.
right.
A lot of people were just living their lives. We were fine. I mean, the Indians here, they were fine. They were fine. You know, I mean, wow.
Can
So
you
I mean,
imagine 60 million?
that's
60
crazy.
million,
No,
you know?
no. Yeah,
And
I
and
know.
then now many of the because I have a lot of indigenous Chiricahua, Apache,
Mm-hmm.
and of course Spaniard, and like we have a lot of big mixture. Like I said,
Right.
Heinz 57. And I think we had talked about that last time we spoke.
Yeah.
But you should see the land that some of these people live, like the eight northern tribal lands. And they can't even grow corn on it. They can't grow anything. It's just a desert. It's just like, wasted land.
Yeah.
Desert land that is worthless. And that's what they ended up with. Which
Wow.
it's just disheartening. It really uh, it affects the way we as Americans look at other people, especially the poor indigenous native Indians. They
Wow.
they're still going through a lot.
Yeah.
They're It's very difficult. Because they won't even let them become Americans. They're a sovereign nation separate of ours because they won't let them be Americans. That's disheartening. Because I think
Wow.
like I said earlier, we're all equal.
Mm.
No one is exempt. You know, and I just want to get that message out there, and I hope that my book can touch the soul because the book is really deep. Believe me, spiritually, this book is so deep
Mm-hmm.
that uh, I don't want to talk about the story, but you have to read it,
Yeah.
and to know uh, what I was feeling and what came out of me, and it wasn't just written by me, the saying that a spirit that lives within us, was my guidance, because I'd ask God every day,
Hmm.
to please guide me and give me the ability, give me the strength, and give me the knowledge to
Yeah.
express how you really feel, what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's happening, because climate change, we don't, we need to do something about that, or we're not going to be around much longer,
I hear
you
you.
know,
I hear you.
you know.
Wow. Where
And
did
then
you
they
grow
say,
up?
pardon me.
Where did you grow up?
Well, I grew up in the San Luis Valley in Colorado. It's in southern Colorado.
Uh-huh.
It's like it's called the San Luis Valley, and the largest little town there is called Alamosa, Colorado. I don't know if you've ever heard of Jack Dempsey, the boxer, the Manasseh Mauler.
Yeah.
Okay, I grew up 7 miles from him.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, when I was in the fifth grade and I was in band, he was our grand marshal in our parade, which was awesome, because he was a towering man, and he was Jack Dempsey, so it was pretty cool. And it was a small Mormon community where a
Mm-hmm.
lot of Hispanic people, that had come from New Mexico. We weren't from Mexico. Some were, but most of us were from New Mexico. And like I was born in a place called Santa Cruz, New Mexico,
Mm-hmm.
and my father was from Colorado, so they they met because my grandfather on my mother's side worked for the railroad
Oh, wow.
and Santa Fe Railroad for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
So he would live in Alamosa. So we'd go to Alamosa to go visit my grandparents and like that. But then my father wasn't in our life because my mother was killed in a car accident when I was little, so our grandparents raised us.
Mm.
So then we moved to Salt Lake City, and I lived in Salt Lake City as a kid, and that's where I was educated, you know.
Oh, wow.
And then I went to, I don't know if you ever heard of a place called Silverton, Colorado.
No.
Okay, well, there's a train that goes from Durango. It's called the narrow gauge train. It's an old train that goes from Durango to Silverton. I think a lot of Americans that, you know, probably some people that are listening now have, you know, been on that train ride. If you've never done it, yeah, you should take that ride. Go to Durango,
okay.
Colorado, take that train ride to Silverton, Colorado. Well, I was drafted out of Silverton, Colorado in 1966. And then I went in the military. And of course I did 3 tours in Vietnam, you know, and I also have another book that's on the internet that's called I Hear Soldiers Cry. And it's about my tour in Vietnam and my experience and my memoir, you know, of the war, you know, along with 200 or 2.7 million that served in the war theater itself, you know. So
that's amazing.
But
wow.
That's pretty much it. And then I've lived in Santa Fe now for about 52 years, I think. I've lived in Santa Fe.
By yourself or with your? I mean, do you have a spouse or
I
children?
married, and I was married to my wife for 47 years, and we have 2 children. I have a granddaughter that lives with my son lives with me, and we you know, and but my wife passed away a couple of years ago, and she did the book cover. She did the artwork on the book cover.
I think that book cover. People are looking at it right now. I think that is so inventive. I just love the colors and just how she did it. Oh my gosh!
You should see the inside of my house. I would blow you away because it has nothing but like indigenous paintings on the walls and stuff. And she did a lot of painting, and I made a lot of stuff. We were kind of like, you know, we were artists, you know. So like our doors are painted, you know, with Kachina dolls and you know, stuff like that, you know. And I made the doors, and you know, our bedroom, we have great big huge dolls, you know, of indigenous dolls, you know, and then paintings, you know, that we have everywhere. We're all kind of indigenous interior type design in our house, and that's just how I would feel, you know. It's just we're part of the culture here in New Mexico. Of course, Santa Fe is the most popular tourist town in America, believe it or not. You know, we're the city different. No building is allowed to be built over 40 feet high.
Oh.
And most colors have to be in pastel colors too. And mostly everything is like, you know, like old adobe, you know. I think you saw my photo of my house that I built, you know. It's a Spanish hacienda.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
And you know, I built it for my wife, you know. I built 2 houses for my wife during our marriage, you know, but my wife and I started writing books like in 1993. We started. I used to longhand it, and my wife would type it and correct all my mistakes and stuff like that. And I'd go to work. I'd work all day. Then I'd come home and write. So it took us like 3 years to write I Hear Soldiers Cry. But we got it out there. It's been well received. They say it's one of the best books that some consensus have said that it's the best book they've ever read.
Wow.
So, you know, and we did it together. We did all our books together, you know. We were a team, you know. And so
is she still, is she gone?
Now, you know. It's sad, you know, and you know, you try to do your best, you know. And
is she with us anymore? I mean, is she gone?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
She's been gone for 2 years now, and she was a beautiful. I'm writing a book about her, as a matter of fact, right now.
I was going to ask you that.
It's titled Edwina, because she was like she wanted to be a nun, but she grew up in a place called Rancho Taos, New Mexico, which is up the road from here. And as a matter of fact, Dennis Hopper, the actor, you know who he is, right?
Yeah.
He bought my grandmother's theater.
Wow.
And you know how big a theater, right?
Well, yeah.
He turned it into a house. There's
Wow.
even a movie with him and Jodie Foster. I can't remember the title of the name, but it shows this house, the adobe, and it's just beautiful. But everybody used to come and visit Dennis Hopper and Peter Fonda and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of his friends. That Dennis Hopper had many friends that would come to visit him there and stuff. Because we'd go visit our aunt and our grandmother, and there'd always be famous people in the neighborhood. Because of Dennis Hopper. It's pretty fun.
Oh, that sounds good. You have children?
Yeah. Pardon me?
Do you have children?
Yes, I have a son that's
Oh,
just
so
turned
that's
26.
right, because he's living with you and with your grandson, right? Do you have any other
Yeah,
children besides that?
and I have my daughter,
Oh,
and
okay.
she's 35 years old, and she has a boutique business on the internet. She sells It's called Bella's Boutique, and she sells, you know, Louis Vuitton stuff, but it's actually the prefabricator, whatever you want to call it. It's from China,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of spending $3,000 for a purse, you can get a nice purse for $200, $300 for a Louis Vuitton, a lookalike, and
Right.
it looks pretty good. I've seen a lot of her stuff, and it's beautiful, you know.
That's nice. That's
So
really cool. That's
yeah,
really good. I
and
mean, you got to do something, right?
oh yeah, and well, she was a dental hygienist, but she really didn't like it, especially when you work for certain dentists and stuff like that.
Yeah.
She didn't like it, so she says, "Oh, I'll do this on my own." So, she she does pretty well,
Wow, you
and
sound like
so
you have a lot more books in you, though. I mean, you
I
have
have
your
8 books that
wife.
I've written already. You can go on Amazon
Uh-huh.
and look at all the books that I've written. I have 8 books on Goodreads.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Wow.
and then I've written screenplays. I have a screenplay that's really fun that I wrote. It's called Drafted and Shafted in the '60s. It's
Mm,
kind of like a comedy, uh, of like Cheech and Chong going to Vietnam,
right.
except for my characters were Chewie and Louie. Chewie was the Mexican, and Louis was the black kid from East St. Louis. And this is really a guy that was in the army with me. His name was Louis Johnson, and he was pretty cool. Him and I got along. We always pulled guard duty together, and we're always together if we could, but anyway, I just wanted to build a character and talk about, what a lot of us went through because, we went to the Vietnam War and, we felt that we got a raw deal, you know, uh,
Yeah.
in all of that. So Drafted and Shafted. As a matter of fact, uh, Dream Books uh, Media Professionals has the screenplay right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know if they've read it or not, but they have it. It's really a funny story. It's fun. If you wanted
Awesome.
it, I could send it to you.
That would be amazing. Well, we'll have to
Oh
talk
yeah,
about that. We'll definitely have to talk about that after the show. So, how long have you been published? I mean, you said you've written many other books, and I did kind of scroll through the books, and I showed everybody the books that you've written. But how long have you been published?
27 years.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah,
So you've been
but
creating new neurons in people's
gotten.
brains for 27 years.
Yeah, and I've done a lot of research because one thing I found out about, when you write is that you better have your facts straight
Yeah.
because people will call you on it. There's a lot of really brilliant people out there. And so I've learned to research everything really, really, really good to make sure that what I'm talking about that's what it is.
Right.
And there's no mumbo jumbo or bull. You know what I mean?
I do know
And
what you
so
mean. Yeah.
it's I've entered my books in Writer's Digest. I've gotten 5, because they rate you from a 1 to a 5,
Mm-hmm.
and I've gotten 4s and 5s, and most of them. One of the books that I wrote, The Queen of Motel Boulevard, was the story of the woman who opened all the Super 8 motels throughout the United States.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, she commissioned me to write her biography, and my son and and her grandson were college roommates at the University of New Mexico, New Mexico State,
Mm-hmm.
and so my son had one of my books, and she went over there and she picked up my book, And she goes, "Who wrote this book?" The name is. So my son says, "My father did." She goes, "Can I borrow it? I want to take it home and read it." She goes, "Sure, go ahead, take it." So she took it, and then like 2 weeks later, she called me up. She goes, "I want you to write my story, my biography."
Oh,
I go,
wow.
"Really?" She goes, "Yeah." So she commissioned me to write her story, and it's called "The Queen of Motel Boulevard."
Okay. Wow.
And what it's, you know, the owners uh, uh, of Super 8 Motels was a guy named Ron Rivet and Dennis Brown.
Okay.
They were from uh, Pierce, South Dakota. Okay, and they had $3,800, and they had this idea of having a motel, but have it like a hotel where you go
Mm-hmm.
inside instead of going from the outside doors into it. You go inside and then you go into your rooms, and so they had uh, an idea, and they went to the banker, and the banker says, "Okay, we'll lend you the money. We'll try this,
Mm-hmm.
because they had a good reputation, they had good credit. So they started the first one in Aberdeen, South Dakota.
Okay.
Okay, and then they went to Pierce, South Dakota, and at that time, Polly, Hoffman of Franzen, who this lady is, she had bought a hotel called the Calumet Hotel in Red Pipestone, Minnesota, and she had purchased it from Eric Severide. Okay, do you remember the news commentator?
Okay. Yeah.
Eric Severide's mother lived in Pipestone, Minnesota, so she heard through the bank, because she was working in the bank. She was a bank teller, that Eric Severide's mother wanted to sell the hotel for $1. Whoever gave her $1, get this huge 30-room hotel, beautiful. And so she left the bank and went to Miss Severide's house and says, "Is it true that Eric wants to sell this hotel for $1?" Because he was in a tax bracket that would have just killed him.
Mm.
So he sold her that hotel for $1. So they spent 20 years remodeling it and doing this, and then her husband was kind of drinking and stuff. So she decided, her and her daughter Judy, to move to here, South Dakota. So they rented a trailer, and
Mm-hmm.
then she got a job in the motel. And then this friend of hers says, "Well, they're hiring at the Super 8 Motel. They're looking for night, auditors. You should, put in your application." So she did. She went and did that. So she worked it, and she did miracles there, and they loved her. And they said, "We want to send you to Raton, New Mexico." And she goes, "Where the heck is that?"
Oh, wow.
So she drove to Raton, New Mexico. It took her 2 days to get, because it's a long drive. I know I did it. I drove to Pipestone, Minnesota. It took my wife and I and my daughter and this other friend of mine, took us 2 days to drive to Pipestone, Minnesota. And Pipestone is where the Indian peace pipe comes from.
Mm-hmm.
The ceremonial Indian peace pipe.
Okay.
That's where it comes from.
Oh, nice.
Pipestone, Minnesota.
Wow.
Okay. And so, anyway, that's another long story. But anyway, she started Raton, and before you knew it, she was all over. She was in Truckee, Arizona. They were building them like crazy everywhere because it caught on, and it was doing really, really well. What she did, she just went and did the operations. She was the operational director. She
Mm-hmm.
even had her own plane where she could fly anywhere. She flew to Newark, New Jersey, build one there,
Mm-hmm.
Washington, D.C., everywhere. She did 350 when she decided she didn't want to do it anymore. So she bought her own motel and was doing her own thing. And that was in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And that's how, I ended up writing her story,
Wow. That must have
and
been amazing.
it was. And the thing about it is that she was really a wonderful human being, and uh, she liked to play pool. So she'd go to bars and play pool with men, the best there is, and beat them. She was really good at pool.
Wow.
And
You talked like
she had that
she's
kind of life.
gone too. Is she gone?
She passed away about 10 years ago.
I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
Wow.
she was really. Oh man, this woman had money. You wouldn't believe. Like when uh, she had to pay me so much up front, and when she pulled out all these bags of money, and I go, oh my god,
Yeah.
you know, where is this woman? And what she would do is she was at her motel, but she would take the all the 50s and hundreds and put them in a separate bag, and then she'd put them, believe it or not, in the cabinets in her kitchen. She had bags full of money everywhere, you know,
Mm.
and it was crazy. You know, I couldn't
Wow.
believe somebody had that kind of money. You know, I mean, somebody who was a robber would have a feast day,
Huh.
but she eventually, when I finished the book, and she uh, she was really really happy with the book. You know,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, I did the manuscript and I gave it to her, and I said, well, if there's any changes that you want, just write them. You know, anything you want changed, just let me know, because she told me the story, and then I had to kind of add to it. You know what I mean?
Right. I
To make
got
it
you.
a better story,
Wow.
and it turned out pretty good. And it won't be a national bestseller because you know, I mean, it was her story,
Right.
and I did it the way she wanted it. You know,
I got you.
so
Well, we're talking about today you as an author and also your book, your latest, Waiting for Extraterrestrials. And I know people can get that on like Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. It's very good that you got it into Reader's Digest or you got that kind of rated. And that was amazing too. So tell me, are you looking to do more books after, you write about your wife?
yeah, I think I'm going to do a sequel to Waiting for Extraterrestrials because this is really funny. It's not funny, but while I was writing Waiting for Extraterrestrials, I almost died 2 times.
Oh.
I had congestive heart failure. I it was just, and then I got COVID.
Mm.
So everything that I had that was going against me medically with COVID, it messed with my heart. So the top part of my heart and the bottom part of my heart weren't meshing together how it's supposed to mesh, where it goes, the heartbeat,
Mm.
and it wasn't doing that. So they had to put a pad on me and shock me with 120 volts,
Mm.
you know, and I had gone to the emergency room like 6 times because my heart just was crazy,
Wow.
and so once they zapped me, it took me about a year and a half. But when I got home from the hospital, and I had only been home a couple of days, and I asked my wife, and I go, because she was kind of sick herself, and I says, did you get a chance to finish the book cover? And she pulled it out from her little drawing book and she handed it to me, and it just blew me away. She had done exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's like she had a third eye,
Mm.
and somehow, she communicated somehow, and with me and what I wanted, and it came out, and I loved it. So, and then 2 weeks later, she passed away,
My gosh, I'm so
and
sorry.
it was really really hard.
Yeah.
It's been very difficult, but I wanna, because I was so sick, and then I had anxieties. It was so crazy. It was hard to finish this book. You won't believe how hard it is, because when you have anxieties and you have this feeling that you're going to die, and so I was able to finish it. So what I want to do is when they go to another, I won't tell you too much about the story, but anyway, I want to continue the story because there's more to be told.
Right.
So I'm going to have a sequel
That
of
is
Waiting for
awesome.
Extraterrestrials.
That
Hmm.
is awesome.
It needs to be told because they left this planet to live on another planet. I'll put it
Yeah,
that way.
definitely.
You know,
Well,
and
wow.
they
Go ahead.
and because I think we're destroying the earth right now at such a rapid rate, and all we care about is money. And what we should care about is humility. You know, the love for our brethren.
Hmm.
And that's what I want to touch on.
Yeah.
And that's why Waiting for Extraterrestrials, the end is mind blowing.
Oh, okay.
it's,
Well, don't give it
it's,
away. Don't
no, I
tell them.
won't. I
Don't
can't.
tell them.
Don't be what's that saying? Don't be oh God, I can't think of it right now. My son's always telling me, because I'll be watching them and he goes, "Don't tell me, Dad. Don't tell me." It's funny.
Yeah, don't say anything. Don't do that. I
Yeah,
forgot what
no,
the name of that is, but yeah, definitely don't do that. But we're gonna go ahead and put the link in the description box so that people can go ahead and check it out for themselves. It's just been such a pleasure talking with you. There's just such passion in your voice, and I know that it's been a difficult time, and I believe me, I sympathize with you. I lost my mom last year, and
oh
I know
God,
it's not your wife, but it's still my mom, and you still those
my
feelings.
condolences,
And
my
thank you.
deepest heartfelt condolence for you.
Thank you.
You know,
And it's hard. It really is hard
oh
because
yeah,
you've confided in these people, and they're very special to you. And when they leave this earth and wherever they may go, it's difficult to move on without them. Definitely.
yeah, it is. It's very very hard. And then, but you know what? She was so spiritual that she made me so spiritual. I pray the rosary every day. I am a
Hmm.
Catholic, but I pray and I pray for everybody. As a matter of fact, just before I came on here, I prayed. I prayed really hard that I'd have a good interview
Hmm.
because this really means a lot to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about the money, but it's about getting the message out there.
Definitely. Definitely. Well,
We're
we're gonna do
starving
that.
for good things. You
Yeah.
know, and if anything that you can do to help me on this, I would greatly appreciate it
Well, we
because we
got your
need to get
back.
the message out there. You know, it has, because the way we're going right now, I don't have no clue, or I can't fathom, you know, uh, what the consequences are going to be
Yeah.
that are brought on by people who don't care.
I got you.
You know,
I got you.
that case in
Yeah.
point.
Definitely. Well, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, Jay. And I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to share. Share this, put the word out there. This is very special to not only Jay, but all of the Native Americans and the people who have had to suffer at the hands of injustice and just so much stuff. We're gonna just say it like that. But I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're gonna have that link for you so you can check it out for yourselves in the description box below. And until next time, guys, don't forget to dare to be different. Bye.
Okay.